All right, I'd like to call the IT Executive Steering Committee meeting of May 20th, 2025 to order. I'd like to inform everyone that Sharon Driscoll, the authority's communications director, is making an audio and video recording of today's meeting. Is there anyone else making an audio recording of today's meeting? If so, please identify yourself. If you're joining virtually, please press the raise your hand icon on the Zoom dashboard, or if you're joining by telephone, by pressing *9 on your keypad and wait until you're recognized to state your name for the record.
Lizzie, you're recording?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you. That's all I see.
All right. All right, and then pursuant to section 20 of chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021 as amended, IT Steering Committee member John Cahill is participating remotely in today's meeting because his physical attendance today would be unreasonably difficult. All IT Executive Steering Committee members in attendance and participating in the meeting by Zoom will be clearly audible to each other. As a result of John Cahill's remote participation in this meeting, any and all votes taken by the committee members today shall be by roll call vote. And in attendance of the IT Executive Steering Committee members are myself, Peter Jeffrey, the chair, Eric DeWicki of the Port Council member from Fairhaven, and John Cahill remotely, Port Council member from Vineyard Haven. Mark, if you want to first just introduce who from management's here today.
Yeah, so from the Steamship Authorities, we have Stephen Coleman, IT Director, Mark Munson, Chief Operating Officer, Sean Driscoll, Director of Communications, and myself, Mark Rosen, Treasurer Comptroller.
All right, and the first, I'll note that there was an oversight in the notice for the committee to agenda item to vote the minutes of last meeting for approval. So since it wasn't on the agenda, we can't vote on them today, but we will make certain to do so next time. We do want to get those timely posted. And before we start with the RFR update, what I've done a little bit differently with this committee for even further transparency, I always like to ask for public comment at both the beginning and end of the meeting. So if there's any public comment at the start of the meeting, we'd entertain that now. There'll also be opportunity at the end of the meeting for public comment.
Don't see any.
All right, seeing none, we'll move to the RFR update. I'll turn it over to Tom and/or the Marks.
All right, great. Thanks so much. And Sean, will you be projecting the slides or should I?
You can share on your side, Tom. It's probably more efficient for you just to do it.
Okay. All right, sounds good. The so just give me a second. Great. So we as I'm bringing it up, we to start with, we've just included the slide that was shared. If everyone can see this with the board and Port Council. So just as place setting that we have the components of the process, and now we're in to the due diligence phase, and we have already started now talking with the references of the vendors, and I will share on the next slide a little bit more detail that we're aiming to complete these by May 27th in order to give sufficient time to have the results of the reference checks shared with the evaluation team. And then we are also just looking to, prior to May 27th, also confirming the business background information, financial information, other market information, really reviewing what the vendors have stated. So the intent of this is, following the procurement the procurement process that was laid out in the RFR, still the basis for the evaluation is what the vendors have submitted, but this is a confirmation process, double checking what the vendors have submitted, and then again providing that back to the evaluation team. So as part of this, we have a total of 15 references that we're following up with so far, we're planning different calls just to check with the references and see what their experience has been with each one of the vendors. Any comments or questions on this?
Any questions?
Not for me.
All right.
Tom, do you want to go through the process that you're going through to review each vendor's background on the due diligence, business backgrounds, financial information? What is the process there?
I mean, the process is a little different for the different vendors. Each one of them submitted in their business response, they had submitted what's their company background, what's their where is the software currently being used, how long have they been in existence, and then each one of them is often happens in the software world, especially because this is pretty specialized software. The company structures are a little different, and so just trying to verify both in discussions with the vendors themselves, and then also with the references, making sense of confirming, okay, if in some cases where the software company may be owned by another company, what's the relationship there, that kind of thing.
So, I'm a little confused here, but I'm just a simple sailor. The qualitative and quantitative analysis that you're engaging in as our vendor to ensure that these people meet a due diligence process, what is it? You gave me a very ambiguous answer without any answer. And what are you using for metrics? What are you using for analysis, both qualitative and quantitative, that is standardized? That would be the least we expect from you as the folks that are paying you to do this, to inform not only us, but the public. What are you using to do that? And I'm sorry to get a little PO'd here, but I'm PO'd. Because I've been asking this question since I've been thrown on this committee. And I haven't gotten an answer yet. And in fact, you're responsible for it. It's not the folks in this room. So could we try again? And could you break that down and explain what you're doing to determine, I understand we got a short list of folks. In this short list of folks, how did we get there? And I haven't gotten a straight answer. And frankly, I apologize because I should have been asking you. But man, I'm getting the same round turn on an answer here that it should be a very straightforward answer. And we should have a demonstration of a product as to what you used as your checklist. So again, apologize to everybody for being a little anxious here, but I'm a little PO'd here. Because this is a big project for the Steamship Authority. And right now, the Steamship Authority cannot afford to have another embarrassment in the public eye. Things are heading in a certain direction, and this is the number one project on our plate that's going to generate revenue and help us manage revenue and help us manage the downfall and decline of ticketing right now. We got a problem. We're losing customers. And nobody's talking about that. You know, this project actually helps us fix that. So please be forthright and give me a good, solid, cogent answer as to what process you've used, both qualitatively and quantitatively, to get where you are.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
I'd like an answer first.
well, one of my remarks is I don't know if the answer is totally in Gibbs's hands. I think the Steamship Authority should be involved in that answer as well.
$45,000 a month.
So one of the things we have done,
Yeah, Gibbs needs to answer this question, please. So it doesn't fall on your back.
Well, Mr. Dewicki, I'm not sure exactly how to answer your question, which I know is probably going to frustrate you, because really what we're looking for is for this group to help us with the guidance of what is it that you need in terms of feeling comfortable and confident with the decision. So I'm sure it's enormously frustrating that I'm giving you an answer by posing a question, but that really is the intent of the governance model. The in terms of the validation, we don't, I'll be honest, we don't have like a specific rubric that we are following. We are following up on each one of the vendors based on what they have submitted, and evaluating each component as they've stated it. So the procurement process as it's laid out is intended to be based on what the vendors have stated. So we're reviewing what they have stated.
Just in this slide alone, Tom, you've got the makings of a rubric, right?
Yeah.
And yet
Yeah.
you're telling me you don't have a rubric. And I've heard in the past, oh, we used an RFR versus an RFP in order to skirt around an issue that, to me, is very viable in holding people accountable. Whether it's R or P, it does not hold us less responsible as a committee, as a public entity, you as the person who have been hired and paid very well to conduct this, right? So, how do we, and again, don't think that I'm accusing anybody of anything. What I want to do is prevent all of us from scrutiny that is either deserved or otherwise. So, when you're working on, and this isn't about even, what we're paying or what we're going to pay somebody to produce this product. It's whether the product is a truly viable product, and whether this product is going to be, there's going to be continuity of operations. Whether this is whomever we select is going to be able to meet a standard or several standards. And in the kind of the generalities that keep flowing have got me really concerned, and they should have everybody sitting at the table, including yourself, concerned. This should not be ambiguous in any sense.
If I may, I'm having the benefit of having sat in on the vendor demonstrations. My understanding is we do have a rubric. There were evaluative factors. They were all listed in the RFR or RFP.
It's not good.
Well, they're all listed out, itemized, there were technical, there was operational. That was all laid out, all the vendors respond to this, and what we're doing now with this due diligence is confirming the information that the vendors presented to us to show how they met the technical requirements.
And how is that monitored and engaged? That doesn't come from the RFI. You know, when you're evaluating.
Well, I don't understand what you're saying.
When your evaluators are looking at something and measuring whether they meet the metric or not.
And the metric was,
Well, hold on a second.
Well,
You don't have a document that everybody who's evaluating is looking and checking and marking and.
there was a document.
Yes.
But how come I can't get that?
Yeah, yeah,
document?
yeah.
On the parts-
So,
We did send
so
that
if I could
document.
say, so I was trying to respond to your specific question about, did we have a specific rubric for the due diligence process for what specific things we were doing to externally review and evaluate these vendors? So we don't have a specific metric or rubric because it's based on the evaluator's responses. Now, in terms of to the chair's point, in terms of how we have evaluated the vendors, that is very specific. That is very well laid out. That was determined prior to the release because it must be. It must be. We cannot go through a public procurement process without these things being highly defined. We cannot change the yardstick once we have already had the vendor submit. So they were asked very specifically to provide the business response, to provide the technical response, to provide the functional response. They were evaluated on approximately 750 different specific criteria, individually evaluated one by each one of the committee members. Each one of those committee members did their own individual notes, review, individual review, then comprehensive collective review. That is part of the process. That's as it was laid out prior to the submission. All of those components were evaluated. All of them were reviewed. All of them were reviewed by the selection committee, and each one of those then scored. So there is a scoring sheet that is at the categorical level as opposed to the at the detail level, which was also by intent because that's how the process was laid out. And then that defined, based on the scoring, who were then the vendors that proceeded to then be identified for the demonstration. So what we are now doing is following up with, and we're checking references. So we are not going to the references and asking them to validate 750 different things, but we are asking them overall, what was their experience, similar to a reference check of a person, and then also looking to see where we can information on their financial background. Has the company been in existence as long as they say, that kind of thing. So that is the process we're going through, and it is a very detailed process. Now, unfortunately, and this is what I meant in the previous meeting, is it's very annoying if you're not part of the selection committee. It's very annoying because you can't see what the scoring is. You can't see what the discussion is because it's an embargoed discussion. What we're looking for and looking for guidance on is, while we can't change the metric. What we are looking for is we're looking for guidance on what are some of the priorities? What are some of the ways that we should be weighting and considering factors? How should we be considering, what we've gone into this process with an understanding of what some of the priorities are, and some of those priorities are identified in the scoring in terms of a 1, 2, and 3. But certainly from to your point, this system has to work and has to work well. It has to work well for the public. This system has to be able to support over the next, it's a 5-year contract, but as these systems are often put in place for longer than that, we have to be confident that over time, approximately $1 billion worth of revenue is going to flow through this system and actually work. And so, we're really looking for help and guidance to understand, continually what are the priorities, because priorities, right? Strategy and priorities change over time. They shift over time, and really trying to understand that. And weighing different factors and elements, how do we make sure that the recommendation going forward is the right one coming from the committee? And again, to be clear, our role is facilitating the committee, as opposed to, we're not a voting member of the committee.
Thank you.
If I could follow, I guess, Mark, if it hasn't been shared with there, obviously, to give those evaluated factors without the scoring, so blank sheet. And then I also think, given this discussion, when we approve these minutes for this meeting, that we include that blank rubric as part of the minutes, so that we have more transparency to the public as to what were the factors, so they can see what were the factors the evaluation committee was looking at.
100%. And I'll talk to you after now. The blanks were sent, Eric, on April 24th. So it was the
blanks.
How the rubric was and what the scaling was on.
I just asking why, if I'm on this committee, I don't understand how we got there with the sheet and with the data results, right? What's the purpose?
Now, how was the sheet made?
No, but how are they completed?
Okay.
Why is that? And this is just ignorance here. Why is that not very transparent to somebody that's sitting on this committee?
Sure, so the evaluation committee was formed and we have different cross references within the organization. Okay, that was done where the people on the committee, it's their evaluation, they can't be influenced from other people until a final decision is made. Once that is voted on by the board, then that becomes public, but prior to that, that is the committee in a cocoon, for lack of a better term, where if I was not on the committee, I cannot talk to my employees who are on that or get their feedback on who's doing well. That's their decision and they have to be independent.
Why are they separate? The evaluation committee and this committee?
The evaluation committee was formed with the employees, who are
Just the employees.
it's the employees of the organization. So we have Stephen and another person from the IT department. We have Mark Munson as the COO, Allison Fletcher, the Director of Shoreside Operations, and Angela Campbell, the Reservations Manager. So that's 5. Then it was myself as the Treasurer Comptroller and Kelly Conrad, who's a data financial analyst. So there's different levels of the organization, different viewpoints, and a good cross-reference of.
So nobody from the board, nobody.
Not on the evaluation committee. And so then.
What about the vendor?
Tom was for guidance and checking references and
areas internal on the evaluation. And
he had no say on the evaluation.
No, that's just you guys.
Just us, like imposed, okay.
That's what I've been looking for, is to understand. Then I need to understand. Again, just a simple sailor, why wouldn't you have other stakeholders included? Is there a legal requirement for that? Is there?
I being involved because I was originally. I wanted someone from the board and the port council to be on that evaluation committee, and having done it previously when it came to the award of the contract to DDIT Tech Audit, that led to Gibbs becoming a contractor vendor for us consultant. Once the board created an entity, everything had to be public, including a 4-hour meeting going over the minutia edits of the RFP. in public, like literally redlining a meeting, which, became seemed a little bit too cumbersome, especially as we went with something as large as this. The compromise, or I don't want to say, the solution was to form this committee to oversee this as it goes about, and the fact was that both the port council and the board, individually the members, as well as the board itself, got to vote on whether or not to approve the RFP that was drafted as it came out, and those are factors, and the weights of those factors. And then before this contract is awarded, obviously, their recommendation will come to us, and we'll be able to ask all the same questions that you're asking now. And then, since the recommendation's out, have access to the raw data finally, which we unfortunately can't have now because of the procurement laws. But the board, the board doesn't have to follow their recommendation and can make its own decision once it has access to the raw data. So, I mean, part of it is I guess, I don't want to say heavy-handedness, but the rules without flexibility as the legislature has imposed them on state.
There is nothing wrong with rules,
Right,
right?
So-
And I am not averse to the rules.
but I'm just saying that's
I'm
why, but that's why we're where we are, right where we are, because.
And I'm okay with that. I just have not been briefed on what the rules are. Kind of got asked to get involved in this, and then there was a little bit of lots of miscommunication. The last meeting, was 12-hour notice, before the meeting, and thought I could attend, and got thrown into another meeting that night as well. And I'm just trying to get up to speed to make sure we are playing by the rules, right? I want everybody in this room and on that screen protected, right? And the integrity of the name of this organization protected, right? So for me, it seems like in the public domain, it's a lot of finger pointing going on at this organization. And what we've got to do is make sure that doesn't happen when we hire somebody or we put this software in place and we're managing outcomes to really make sure not only is it going to be an asset, the software be a great asset, but everybody's gonna be happy with it, right? We're here to serve the public interest, right? In the Bay State, in the islands, and the Cape. So I think at the end of the day, I'm just, when you're uncomfortable and you feel like you're not getting answers, not that anybody's trying to be nefarious, that's not where I'm going with this. I just want answers to understand how we get to the end stage with a product that's going to meet the needs of the public in this space. And I think, again, apologies for being assertive here, but I need to be assertive because I've been trying to ask questions and just not quite getting the answers. And not to point the finger at anybody, that's not my job. My job is to understand the process and really ensure that I can articulate it to anybody that asks me a question, by sitting on this committee. I think that's fair, right? Would you agree that's fair? Okay, so, just want to protect everybody here. And this is a big one. I think it's bigger than my gut's telling me this is a really important project for this organization. And, frankly, I'm tired of the public feeling let down in communications. And they don't have to be, and they shouldn't be. And the more transparent we can be with the public, the better off we're all going to be. That's my end goal.
Yeah, if I may, so as part of this, so also we do third-party references, we run it down in Bradstreet for the verification, we ask for audited financial statements. And if we had questions, which we did have someone there, relationships of what their parent company or joint venture, we'll dig deeper and ask for more financials of what's the role for clarification.
So my suggestion here in the due diligence process, you should have metrics, you should have a rubric that you're operating off of. Because it's there, it's already written down, right? And build on those in terms of, standard approaches. For government agencies. Even though you're not fully a government agency, I would use those standards in this particular matter. Because this is an important one and everybody's watching. So,
And I can assure you, we, as a group, understand the gravity of this project and the seriousness.
better than I do.
So,
Right.
this is one that impacts every single person who uses our operations. And has to be done right.
Mhm. And that's my point, is let's keep the public informed, let's keep them engaged. Let's make sure they're comfortable, right?
And also, so at the last board we had, and it'll be provided before then, but we'll put it with the minutes, but what the rubric was as far as the criteria of the questions for the business entity, the RFR, the technicals, as well as the IT. There's 3 categories. And there, how they have that put it out in the PDFs for each one and how what the instructions were to rate the companies was highly advantageous, and what the criteria was as far as the opponent's response goes. Was it existing, a configuration, a customization plan, or not available, and what the comments were? So if someone had something that, configuration is better than a customization, which is better than not available.
Maybe,
So
maybe,
depending on but generally speaking, we'd rather have it configured where it's in the base system than having a customization that you have to deal with forever.
And Eric, I would say before our next meeting, as well as to you, John, if there's something you want addressed during the meeting that you think is important, send it to Mark and Mark and I can discuss it to put it on the agenda.
okay.
All right, great. The and just to build on that, the having been a part of, numerous major implementations and large scale operations like this and large scale changes driven by the software. The something that we always see, the software, the actual software at the end of the day really ends up being often, and it looks like it's going to be in this case too, 20, maybe 30% of what the entirety of the project is. That this is both a software change, but it's really an operational change. And so the what we've started during the planning phase, and then we've got some more slides on it today, is really to continue to talk through what are some of those other elements that we're looking to get feedback, to get involvement, to get to your point, people's views and opinions and what their priorities are, because it's this is a huge undertaking, as we had identified before. There's a lot of places where the operational changes have been made to work around some of the legacy systems, and this is an opportunity to really revisit a lot of that. Some of the things that are we've seen kind of step by step. There's pieces where having a legacy reservation system has really limited some of the some of the options in terms of operationally what could be done, and these this new system, these different vendors there are opening the door to a lot of opportunity and a lot of positive change. And so, the part of, the intent of this group is really to help guide that change, help guide that transition, and all of those other components, as well as, you know, the IT system itself. So the so if there's no other questions on this, and you know, we appreciate, you know, this is hard, and so, you know, we appreciate the, you know, the rigorous the questions and follow-up, because this is not an easy process. Where we go from here is, so, you know, we're contacting the references, reviewing the different bidder claims. Then the team is going to finalize its recommendation. So the part of that is looking at, you know, all of these vendors have some different approaches, right? They have things that they've prioritized in their systems. And so part of the evaluation team needs to, you know, really now, you know, be thinking about, like, how's this really going to work in the steamship operation? And if, you know, we go with, you know, the particular vendor, okay, you know, starting to anticipate what comes next. And reviewing the bidder's approach and understanding, you know, is their plan a good plan? Do we think their plan is going to align with how, you know, operationally the steamship is set up? Develop that recommendation. That goes to then the general manager, and then to bring it to the board. As part of bringing it to the board, to also start the process of thinking about, you know, how is this going to be communicated? You know, how is this going to be shared with the public? How are we going to, you know, facilitate the, you know, the convincing of hearts and minds that, you know, the selected vendor, the selected plan, the selected approach is going to work well. All right. If there aren't any other questions on the process, so we wanted to touch base on some of the other elements of the project. If it's all right, I think I might jump down to the engagement piece and then jump back to infrastructure. So the so we do have meetings scheduled now with shippers, because in parallel to the reservation system, there's also the development of a preseason application, a bulks application that mirrors what's being done today in a separate application that then feeds into the reservation system. But this is creating a new opportunity for the shippers to be able to better make their selections, make their, you know, self-manage what trip preferences they have as part of the preseason shipper scheduling before the schedule opens up to the general public. And so so these meetings will include review of some of the elements of that preseason process, as well as an opportunity to get feedback on implementing some changes that are going to be part of the system rollout. Again, agnostic to the system, but this is, you know, this is an opportunity to for taking a look at how we're booking and scheduling, and also just share how we're loading the vessels. So looking at things like how we use truck length, so length, width, and height and weight, and part of the intended shift is to go from the existing spaces-based scheduling to linear feet. We think it's the right direction, but in order to do that, there's just a lot of pieces through. There's a lot of ways that the steamship has gotten used to using this concept of spaces, and so going forward, it's gonna you know, we're really looking to get shippers comments on that. So there's sessions scheduled for Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard, and then also a meeting in Falmouth for the mainland-based shippers.
And I would just ask, Eric and John, did you get invitations to those meetings, or would you like invitations to those meetings?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
I think I know I got one for the in-person in here, so. But I would offer to, you know, if we could invite committee members as they may.
I'll be away.
Lucky you.
I know, but I have been active over the last couple of years in talking with the shippers and have attended a couple of informal shippers meetings, and also I've spent some time working with Tom of Gibbous about what does this new add-on to what do you call it? What's the name of this one group? The bulk processing, making sure that it's on the right track. So I feel very confident that we're doing the right things, and so I'm happy in the direction it's taking. And I'm glad you're doing the meetings. The more we do with those guys, the better we'll all be.
If I may, Mr. Chair, the charters meetings were done at least previously on an annual basis, where the general manager, the operations manager, the reservation department manager, the truck coordinators who deal with the truckers every day, plus the terminal manager at that location who loads the boats. We're all at the meeting representing the authority to do Q&A, so it's at least once, sometimes twice a year, talking about policy changes people would want to see, some problems they have, and giving ideas of what's coming down the pipeline. And in fact, that dating myself here, probably 20 years ago or so, was actually one of the shippers on the venue who came up with the cancellation policy we have in the game, where there was a lot of shippers putting in for too many reservations and canceling, which prohibited other people from making plans, as what quote unquote they call it, skin in the game. So it was a very good working group historically, and I'm very glad to see we're doing that. And also, for a point of clarification, does everyone understand how we book currently as far as vehicle space, or instead of linear feet? Or if I can, give me 5 minutes. Right now, what we book on is what they call a car equivalent unit. So a food delivery truck is roughly the size of 2 cars. A semi is roughly equivalent of 4 cars. So that one truck can be booked either as 4 cars or 1 truck if it's going down the middle. So instead of using, and sometimes it's more than 2 cars, sometimes it's less, but statistically it's an average. But now we're going to straight linear feet. So if you're 33 feet, you're 33 feet. So previously a 2-space vehicle was a range of 20 feet to 34. So you had a little variance, and a 3-space was 35 to 54. Now we're going by linear feet. So we just have to look at the cause and effects of making that change. If that helps on a high level.
Mr. Chair, I think that's a great idea. I think it'll kind of capture the essence of monetary projections, right? And really figuring out how to meet those deltas that I think we keep seeing in the, in your numbers that unfortunately you have to deliver to us, right? It's showing this decrease, and I think using a linear foot model helps you really decide what you're going to charge in the future, and giving us as a, a port council and a board, the ability to support those projections as well. One question I have is, are you ever including crew? Years and years ago, you guys just had cargo mates, basically. I think they're gone now. Are you using any of the crew to participate in these type of meetings?
In the previous meetings, it was the COO, but it's not the vessel crew, it's really the agents giving, on the dock is giving the crew what's coming on the boat, and they work together. So the agent, each terminal manager, is my understanding, Tom, and their staff have been at these meetings for each section of how they like things to change. So that was a push by them to change to linear feet.
So who's loading the vessels now in terms of the crew? Is it?
It'd be the pilot or the bosun, depending on the vessel and how it's crewed. And when they meet at the terminal, you can jump in anytime, Mark, is that the agent on the dock gives them the manifest, this is what's booked on it, and this is what we have standby.
Side.
Yeah, and then they work together.
And this is part of the update of the software. We want to get to maximize the capacity of our freight deck.
Yeah.
And go into this new system. The basis of all the systems is lane meters or linear feet meters of, and so we need to maximize that. The other part of this is weight. We need to have a weight structure so that we can have the proper trim to maintain our stability letter on the bridge. So we have a lot of changes for our truckers, and this is gonna be an intro to the truckers of the importance of exact length of the vessel, so we can maximize our stow. So we're gonna have really a stow plan for each of the vessels, which the database is gonna fill into, given the way we have it set up. So that we get maximized, we need to, this is gonna be kind of our rollout of the reservation system with our shippers, for them to start reporting. They're gonna have, when they make a reservation, the whole idea is they can do this online by themselves. We're taking the burden off the reservation team in the office, because smoothing, which was a process of how we did it, finalizing our, load plan. But this gives the team, it takes a lot of pressure off the reservation system, so it's going directly in without that. But we need exact information, so we think this is a big step for us as a company to be able to do this, and it's gonna help with the overall reservation system.
It's part of the request to include stability calculations in the software and submit it to create a stability report.
No, generally in most vessels, that's the way, but the way our stability letter is written by the Coast Guard, it's in draft. We gave a number of stability cases to the US Coast Guard Marine Safety Center. And what they have come out with is a draft for subchapter H or subchapter I vessels. That in any configuration, as long as we maintain, the weight that we incorporate, if we have this draft fore and aft, we're gonna be within our stability letter. So that's all calculated in.
So that, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
That's one of the things we talked with the vendors, and some of the more robust solutions than others is an algorithm. If you have more than X linear feet and X weight, then you're an H boat or I boat in that configuration. For instance, if you've been on the Eagle, the Island Home, or the Martha's Vineyard, you can go 3 semis wide or 4 carloads wide. So depending on the configuration, you can put a truck at 1.3 car widths. So that way you know that all of a sudden, if I have 6 trucks, I lose a lane of cars, and automatically brings the allocation down or increases the allocation up for your total lane feet. Some vendors have better solutions than others handling that. That's really one of the biggest items for us, is maintaining how do we control our inventory, to what you're talking about. And that was a real, some of these been very in-depth conversations, and looking at the RFR, and you look at the commercial use in that section, that was something looked at, is how do we handle these type of alerts? Like if I'm at 80% capacity for the whole day, can you let me know? So I need to add more trips in advance, or do I have 20% capacity? Do I have too much capacity on the day?
Yeah.
So that was stuff we talked about, setting up the RFR, we talked with the vendors in person, how do you handle this solution? Don't tell me, show me on the screen, because I can say anything I want, but I wanna see you do it on the screen.
Yeah.
And I also, having sat in on the demos, but not being allowed to ask questions, talk the whole time. That was probably the most strike difference between the different vendors who came up with how they handled freight, or if they could handle freight. And I think that really was kind of the main point. I think that's distinguished each system from one another.
Yeah, no, I mean, freight at the end of the day is going to create a sustainable business, right? And I think it's the most important piece to this puzzle, and glad to hear what you guys are saying.
And making sure that commodity, because right now that's a manual process for certain items, because you have a fare base and you have a commodity base. But making sure that you have something that's odious, doesn't go on the closed boat. Because that's just not a combination or compatibility.
You're left. in some cases, right?
But yeah, so that's how detailed we're getting, that show us how do you handle this, show us how do you have these commodity codes. How do you not allow someone to go on the boat? Is there an override if we have an emergency where we have to do that? How does that work?
How does your wait list work? Very critical item to the authority
Yeah.
in our traveling public.
Well, you know, I think the exciting thing is if there's a delta where you can bring in more freight, people can get notified right away, right?
And you can hold,
Try to solve problems.
you can hold freight by commodity classes with some of the vendors through certain periods of time. So if you had a hazardous boat and you wanna maintain, like, in the winter time, make sure the hazardous gets first dibs, you can still hold certain hazardous commodities to say 2 days, 1 week, whatever is in advance. Then if the hazardous, you know, the weather is warm, then you can let the next commodity carry on the way to grab it. And things of that nature that are manual now, but we can automate in the process.
Good.
And just in the interest of time, if unfairly, I'm gonna ask you if you can pick up the pace.
All right,
I
so,
just-
very quickly then, just to, for awareness, so, we don't yet have the final deliverable on the infrastructure review. This was covered in the last meeting, but, just to be, just in terms of transparency, so this is still going on. And the team is already looking at where is there an opportunity to prioritize some of the blockers that have already been identified as part of the preliminary review. I mentioned the bulks platform, so the team got to see a minimum viable product, an MVP demonstration of what the vendor had put together actually yesterday. And there's a plan for a follow-up to look at the functionality that's been put together. And then some version of this, we're still working on it, but some version of this, it might just be screenshots, will be shared at the shippers meetings to give them some insight into, you know, what the system's being developed, and then also be the basis to ask them some questions in terms of, you know, they're going to be, you know, it's an internal system, but there's also, this is, there's an external component to this. And so the, you know, getting the shippers feedback in terms of, you know, how they're responding to it and how they want to do things like user access. So we're really looking forward to, you know, having some of those discussions coming up on the 28th and 29th.
And I would just ask if we could, offline, as requested, schedule individual demos then before those meetings to interested committee members here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal thing to see. We're gonna be doing a live demo for the truck meetings for the
Okay.
boats.
Okay,
Yeah, that we want them to see it, because it's
Sounds
really
great.
the work that's been put
I
in.
probably can wait till the truck meeting, but if any other member wants to see it before then.
We probably want to send them the current bulk package as well, so you're familiar with how the bulk process works.
That would be helpful.
That's a good idea.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for that. And you know, to build on that, you know, we're happy to meet with anybody individually to review, you know, what's gone into the process to date. So, you know, how we've gotten to this place, what's been the governance model, how we've gone from, you know, what were the findings of the IT assessment to the requirements collection to the RFP, and then RFR. And then, you know, what's gone out to bidders. So, you know, really, you know, happy to go into detail, the and walk through all of that. You know, happy to answer any questions.
And you, just to follow up, I guess, if we're gonna show this demo, then, to the shippers at the shipper meeting, which I think is a great idea, then perhaps we should set up time at a future steering committee meeting, because it's open to the public, the same demo.
Yes.
So the general public could have a greater
Sure.
transparency in what we're doing and see our, you know, let's show off our improvements.
Yep.
All
Yeah, so we'll definitely arrange for that. To go through and be able to share, again, trying to look at the full, the full cycle of that process. It is this, I should say, this is the intent of this is to get away from the existing highly paper process that's based on paper applications, PDFs being filled out, handwritten markup, and then rekeyed into a legacy system. So, we're looking at this as a big win to both internally and externally to improve this process. And also it should give the shippers greater visibility into how the schedule was made, and how we crosswalk from what they asked for and then how the schedule came about. All right, moving forward. So then the last piece is we're also, if you remember, there is there's a commercial sub-team, but there's also a customer sub-team. And so we're planning for engagement sessions. It's going to be a different format than the shippers meetings, but looking at a series of focus groups and then some larger community meetings. More than likely the focus groups, we're shooting for June, and then the larger meetings this summer. We've got, we're looking for feedback on the best way to do this. Like one of the proposals was, should we have some sessions, on the boats as people are going over, as a captive audience to get their thoughts and feedback. So trying to look at, what are the best ways to get people to, engage and respond in this project. So this is, still in development, but looking for thoughts and how to best do this. And then the last piece is we're also working on how to best brand this initiative, how to make it clear to the public, to the shippers, when we're talking about, because this is a longer project. It's already taken a while to get to this point. It's going to take a while to get to implementation. And so looking at an opportunity to sort of brand this effort as so that people recognize it, so that it's clear, okay, it's part of this this larger change that's it's about the scheduling, it's about the shippers, it's about the traveling public, it's about the website, it's about the app, like all of these pieces, and working on how do we differentiate when we're talking about this larger initiative versus day-to-day operations and all the things that are going to continue to happen over the summer as just part of normal travel, so that people see updates, as people see see notices go out, that there's a way to identify, oh, it's part of this bigger project, it's part of this bigger initiative. So I don't know if we've got, I wasn't sure if there was more that we were going to be able to share beyond just that this is happening. If there's nothing else, then we'll move on to next steps.
Are we gonna, once we get to the final brand name, I know this is what, does it require the board to vote on it, or no?
No, I don't think, I mean, I'm looking for a consensus. I'm not looking for a vote. I don't think it has to be
Okay.
that.
I think it should be a vote of the executive steering.
Right.
If that's what they did, for that would be in your
Right.
purview, where the procurement. would
I'm
be
just,
the board's purview.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Hey,
do
Mr.
have concepts to share, but I could also, in the interest of time, email them out, and then we could revisit it at the next meeting.
I think that would make sense. given
Okay.
the time.
Email in the blind, yes.
Yes,
And then any feedback would have to be in the blind back to Sean.
yeah.
to prevent any violations of the open meeting law.
Mr.
We're
Chair,
gonna have a vote on that at the next.
Yeah, I'll do that this afternoon. John, I was trying to get your attention.
Yeah, sure.
hey, sorry, guys, but I do have to go. I got another commitment I gotta go to. But I'm really pleased where we're going on this project. I have a lot of confidence in Gibbous as well as Mark and everyone else, and I'm looking forward to the next one. I will say I would like to look at these last two slides again in the next meeting, just because we're cutting things short today. But thank you, everybody.
Right, great, we
Thanks, John.
still have a forum, so we can continue.
All right, so more to come on that. So in terms of next steps, right, the continue the due diligence effort, the final vendor evaluation, and then the shippers meetings, and then looking to work on the focus groups as part of the customer experience team.
Eric, did you have any questions, comments, or also I think it's a good time, if there any agenda items that you'd like to see for our next meeting, obviously, we're gonna circle back to branding update, do the bulk platform demo, and talk a little bit more about public engagement in terms of stakeholder identities for focus groups.
And bring up the RFR.
And then, yeah.
Yeah.
That's presumed, the RFO.
Just wanna make sure I could do this.
Yes, and the minutes,
So
so that we can approve both sets of minutes.
You know, for me, it's just making sure that the public's informed, they're engaged. They are able to provide input. You know, at the end of the day, the decision is the management decision, right? And we all understand that, but having, you know, an opportunity for folks to provide input and ideas, really. You know, I would like to see somehow you get the crew involved in that trucker meeting. These guys are interfacing with each other all the time, and personally, crew is an important part of management, right? At the end of the day. And I think it's very important to get their input, their feedback, their suggestions, not just on a once in a while basis, but on a contiguous basis. You know, you know that, and you're dealing with that probably on an everyday basis, but, you know, let them feel engaged on this one, right? And that's my suggestion. You know, I just, some of the smartest people I've met in my lifetime have been mariners, right? And I've met a lot of smart people that all over the world, and some of the smartest have been come off the decks of a ship. Mark will say the edge of but
100%, we want the feedback and involvement, especially the frontline employees, all of them, because they're the ones who are using it, and they're gonna be the success or failure of the project. And getting them involved early, and if there's an easier way to put a screen, just simple things, is instead of having this as your third step, is it possible to put as your first step? You know, things like, you know, little things like that make a big
just have a
difference.
separate meeting with that as well.
Well, I think that makes sense to identify some internal stakeholders when we're talking about. We should just call it engagement,
Yes,
right? So who are the groups we need to engage with? But, you know, obviously we recognize the shippers, commuters, excursion fairways. The summer people, but also obviously crew and terminal agents and reservation systems.
100% agree, they had a meeting today about the allocations, and that's where talking with the crew on a granular level again. Is a Saturday night freight boat trip is much different than a Monday morning freight boat, so how would you like to see it? What is the best way now of moving the cars on the new freight boats? What is the optimal lane feet? Because some of it is not gonna be perpendicular, I mean parallel to the slip, some of it's gonna be going perpendicular to the house. You know, when they loop them around, what is their actual lane meters, how do we want it, lane feet, speaking like the European right now. But you know, how we wanna get that, you know, how do you wanna see the manifest? What's the best way?
Yeah. No, I think, you know. I understand the feeder system better than what.
Yeah.
We've been talking about it as a whole system, so I think. I'm much, happier. With understanding where we're going, you know, and it's, you know, it's tough for us as part-time, you know, folks getting input, but, you know, I just, this is a big one and it's gotta get done right, and I think it gets done right more by engaging with stakeholders and the public, right? And I think, you know, bravo Zulu to you for, you know, supporting that, because it's, you know, public deserves this should be the best ferry system in the United States, hands down. And I think it's heading in that direction, I really do, and I just don't wanna see anybody ever kind of trip unintentionally to, you know, not reach that milestone, because I think that, you know, the kid that knows this organization, you know, is always so proud of it, right? And, I think we all can be proud of it in the direction that it's headed. That's my, moral lecture for the day.
I guess would the one member of the public like to comment? Who's still with us at this time?
Suzanne?
Oh. Hi, very interesting meeting, and I appreciate all the mention of the engagement. However, having been engaged as in group meetings with the Steamship Authority, I haven't found this definition of engagement fully encompassing. Didn't really include answers or responsiveness at the level that the community would like. So I would hope that especially Mr. Innes would include in his discussions a positive attitude toward the community as a proactive and concerned part of the discussion, more than has been emphasized in these discussions. I mean, I certainly think it's wonderful to have the crew and shippers involved, and I think it would be great if we could all get on the same page. And I'd like to point out on a related topic that the attitude that the steamship is a lifeline. And I'd like to say that the community itself is its own lifeline. And as a port community, we have our way of living life. And I'd like the engagement to recognize that, and all the emphasis on shipping and passengers simply bypasses the impact on the local community. And I can't speak for Barnstable, but they also have similar problems in some regard. And I appreciate our representing us, but we really relate to this whole story far more deeply than anybody seems to recognize. So I'm not used to public speaking, but it's a little difficult for me to formulate all this, but I think there's a lot of positive attitudes involved in this discussion, and I look forward to a far more responsive set of attitudes and a seriousness of people who have here to now not really been taken seriously in how management relates to the story. We've missed out on a lot of engagement that seriously impacts us. And I think that over time we can improve the situation. So that's the best I can do for now. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. I would just say that, the response that having, you know, trying to champion this change and then sitting in on the demonstrations, there's the opportunity more so with looking at our business rules adapting and changing our business rules to lessen traffic impacts in our port communities by being more efficient in our loading, in the timing, and our reservation systems. And I really think that this technology, if we adapt our business rules well, and then hearing from the public of what they want to see in terms of business rules or outcomes that we can get there through the rules, I do think we can really start to mitigate some of the impacts we've had on our port communities with traffic. So no other.
Sorry, just breathing.
Mr. Chair, if I could just respond to Ms. Cutler's intervention. Thank you. You know, these are the things we need to hear, and we need to support communities, and that's why the steamship is here, and why the state took it over, 100 years ago. And it's it's something that is about you as a support community and a lifeline to the islands as well. But we need to be good stewards, we need to be good tenants, we need to be good neighbors. And that public engagement is imperative as we move forward. And, please see us as, community members as well. And we need your support, and we need to know how to better engage with the community. So hopefully the communities will see us doing a better job as we move forward, and really truly appreciate that type of input, and that the fact that you identified that there are changes in motion and that you see them is very important. So thank you for sharing that.
Is there a motion to adjourn from our one person who can make a motion?
Motion.
And I guess I can second it, and then all those in favor? Aye as well. I guess John left, but I guess technically we should attend a roll call, so.
You each did it individually, is
All
that?
right, all right. So we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.